I've misjudged a little bit and couldn't get my seed starting soil, so I'm not going to be able to start seeds today, which is okay. We'll do that next time, hopefully. But I do want to just go ahead and spend a few minutes and take you around, show you what's going on in the garden. We got a couple issues, and I'll show you the bees and all that good stuff and some other stuff we started doing. And it's a warm day today, so I'm in coastal North Carolina, and it's right at 55, 60 degrees. It's not super warm, but I am got this going on. Just feeding some bees, letting them recharge while we can. Seeing what's going on. So let's see what's going on in the garden. A little continuation from the last video. You can see I propped up with a piece of wood and it did get it level, so I've got to cut some pieces to go under to level them out. So we're going to be doing that soon. I hate doing that stuff, but you know, it's got to be done. And what that'll do too is that'll lift up the edges 3.5 inches wherever I put a full piece. So that's a good amount, and you add more soil in and it's a little bit higher, so it works out pretty good. So I think we're probably about a week away from emptying out this radish and turnip bed. Not very far. We're going to pull the radishes up very soon. We haven't really been eating a lot of them, which is okay. And then the turnips, they're slowly ripening, you can see, so we'll go through, and on these nice days we'll go through and take out what we can and then remove and leave, and then they'll come in. Really do want to get that bed emptied as soon as possible, because we're going to be putting our potatoes in there roughly, let's see, today's January 1st. Happy New Year, by the way. Hope everybody had a fantastic New Year's Eve. And probably in about 30 days we'll be putting our white potatoes in, so we need to get prepared for that. Now the Brussels sprout bed, so there's one issue that you're going to see kind of reoccurring, and we're going to take care of it today. So our Brussels sprouts are doing really good, actually. We topped a few of them to kind of, you know, we're still trying to see how things go and what methods we want to use, but when we topped them, you can see the ones that are topped are producing the sprouts better than the ones that aren't. So what we are going to do, and this is something we did last year, we walked around and I saw one a few minutes ago, but we look for, what we get around here is we get white mold. So this isn't obviously Brussels sprouts, this is a cabbage, but you can see we've got this white mold forming, and what this is from constant moisture, which happens this time of year. So, and we actually haven't had a whole lot of rain, but the problem is it spreads like wildfire. So we're gonna have to remove these plants completely. This one has it too, so we're just gonna go ahead and remove this. We want to get that stuff out of the garden, and we haven't had a lot of rain, but what happens is, because we've had a lot of moisture like dew and stuff like that, things in the wintertime when it's cool and cold just don't really dry out. And when it's real dense like this, you have that issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and remove everything that has it. If it's infecting the majority of the plant, I remove the plant completely. And if it's a portion of the plant, then I just remove that portion of the plant if I feel like it can still survive. So clearly those cabbages wouldn't have survived. I may have a little bit more. Yeah, I've got more on this one. So we're going to remove that. But what I was telling you, and I've noticed this on the Brussels sprouts in the previous years. Let's see, I couldn't find my pruner, so I have to use my knife. I'll show you where I've seen it in previous years. One reason we started topping them is because it happens right up here at the top, and you notice how it's real bunched up and tight. Well, this can be an issue, and like I said, especially this time of year. Now as it starts to warm up, that will end up going away, so we use that as an opportunity to go ahead and just top the plant and get it to start going. And I did see one somewhere in here. It's so packed, it's going to take me a little bit to find, but I did see one, so I'm probably going to have to come out here with a fine-tooth comb and just remove anything I can. And the other thing that I'll do is any leaf like this down here that's touching the ground, I'm going to go through and remove that too, to encourage more of that airflow through here. So what I'll probably do next year, there's 4 rows in here. I'm only going to plant 3 rows, and so that's going to do a couple things. One, it'll allow for more, I think, more production, because there will be more space, and less disease. So if I can do that and I can remove it and grow it appropriately, then we should be able to get, in theory, more Brussels sprouts and more harvest off of our plants. So we're gonna do that. Now this broccoli right here is days away from being harvested. I fertilized yesterday the entire garden, so we're gonna give it a couple days, and then we're gonna start harvesting this broccoli, which means I see a couple heads that will be able to be harvested, and then we can start in it. We want them to get a little bit bigger. Since we fed it that high nitrogen, it's gonna get a little bit bigger, so we're gonna give it time, and then that should work. So we'll start, and that bed should be emptied within 2 weeks. That bed will be emptied. Sorry, the sun is really blinding me today. This bed is almost done here. We've got a couple rutabagas left, and our garlic that we planted about a week ago is starting to pop up. So once we get some good growth across the board, I'm going to come through and really weed this out. We only planted one double row right here, and so all the way down, and so we're going to weed it out, and then we're going to mulch this, empty this whole bed out, harvest what we can, and then call it a day. We do have one Brussels sprout that accidentally, or not Brussels sprout, parsnip. So yep, we got a parsnip down there. We also have some more of this white mold, so this is important to rip that off. But you see this right here, there's white mold on that. You got to get that out of there, or it's going to get in your soil and stay there. One thing I'll say about that, when I first saw it a couple years ago, I freaked out and I read about it, and they were like, look, if it hits the soil, it's always there. Here in the summertime, because it gets so dry and warm, it's not really an issue. It does come back this time. You just stay on top of it and it's going to be just fine. Here's our other cabbage bed. It looks like it's doing pretty good. This one's starting to head up a little bit. We got some more of this white mold here. See if I can't just remove this leaf. There you go. So we'll leave that and see if it comes back. Here. My kid left an egg out here today, so we got an egg. Really like to get this bed emptied out sooner than later as well. It's gonna be a little while, but I'm not gonna really hold my breath, because at this time of year, priority always takes our spring planting. That is our #1 priority. So if this for some reason doesn't work out well, then it's not a big deal, but we always prioritize our spring planting. We'll be planting out our cabbage here probably in about 2 to 3 weeks. So we need to really make room, which means filling those beds and emptying out these beds, amending them and all that stuff. Into the greenhouse here, you can see our lettuce is perking up. I remember a couple videos ago I told you as soon as the solstice happens, it turns around, and that's exactly what's happened. So we've got bok choy right here. We've got different types of lettuces, and they're all growing really good. Our 2-year-old kale plant is growing really good too. So we need to harvest this. Second round of our potato project is coming up, so that's really good. Everything's looking really good. Looks like we have full growth occurring wherever we planted, so that's really good to see. And then our broccoli is doing well. I need to thin a little bit, so I'll come out here and I'll thin this probably tomorrow, get it nice and thinned out, and then that's doing really well. So everything is really moving in the right direction in the greenhouse. The purpose of the greenhouse has been to fill in the gaps. So at this point, we could start to harvest a little bit of lettuce, but in about a week or two, especially because we just fertilized, we should get more growth and we'll be able to fertilize more. So that'll work out really well. I'm happy with the way the greenhouse is producing. It's been a little slow, but every year it's the same way. And then all of a sudden it kind of kicks into high gear. We got our bok choy in this row, which is doing well. We've got a couple little lettuce seeds. I'm not even gonna get down there and show you because I just dropped some seeds like way later than I should have to see what'll happen. But our mustard greens are doing well. And then we've got 2 collard plants. Looks like that one's getting chewed up pretty good, so I need to take a look at that. And our kale is coming along too. So again, as the sun gets higher and higher, this back row will really flourish. And so, like I said, these are the 3 plants. Mustard greens, collards, and kale are what will get you through the winter. And especially if you put a cover on them, you'd be amazed how much cold those can take. We can cover those, they'll do 20 degrees easily with no cover. And then anything lower than that, we really need to. The only reason why I've been covering it is because of the bok choy, because it's more tender. But again, we can harvest that row anytime we want and be done with it. So we're just kind of letting it sit there for as long as possible. If I feel like there's a lot of issues as far as airflow and stuff like that, then we'll start removing them and then make that happen so that the rest of the plants don't suffer. Now I am going to come out here and move this trellis in the next week to the bed behind me. So I'm going to remove this arch here from this area, and then I'm going to put just a straight panel up right here, and then that will hold this area over. And then I also need to clear off what's left of the Seminole pumpkin. I keep saying that, but part of my New Year's resolution, a gardening New Year's resolution, is every single day within reason, is I want to spend 30 minutes every single day in the garden doing something. So if I look at that and I say, okay, for 30 minutes, what am I going to do? I'm going to remove all the white mold. Done. I'm going to remove this. That'll be done in a day or two, you know, and so I can stay on top of it a little bit better, instead of coming out and saying, hey, I need to spend an hour, 2 hours, something like that. Just do a little bit at a time, and it'll make a huge difference. So that's what we're looking to do. Came out here the other day to the bees. We had 6 hives and I combined 2 of them this year. So they're all doing really well and they're super packed full of bees. So these 4 hives will turn into 8 next year. And we're gonna put, I'm pretty sure, all of those hives here, and then whatever we catch in swarms will go to the other farm that we're working. But everything's doing really well here. They have plenty of food. We fed them. They have candy boards on them right now, and everything is looking like it's in the right direction. We got about 2 weeks until the red maples start to bloom, which means then they will start putting up, starting to lay more eggs, and then they'll really start to grow. So we're getting this going. Everything's good. It's just at this point, for about the next month, it's ride it out. So we don't really want to open the hives or anything like that. I've been kind of treating them a little bit and just kind of, you know, getting rid of the varroa mites that are in there and letting them grow, and hopefully we can get a good harvest this year. My goal is to get about 1,000 jars of honey next year. On the talk, while we go to the next section of bees, YouTube's a really funny place. You know, my channel started off as gardening, and as I have evolved in my homesteading, and bees became a really big part of it, I tried to put bee videos on here and people didn't really want to watch them, and so I kind of panicked and I was like, oh no. And YouTube will hurt you for that. But I've been blessed and I have a really good mentor that I work with now. He mentored me for a year, and now we have a little farm together, and I've learned a lot, and I want to share that with people. But YouTube will hurt me if I start to switch my content up. So I started another channel. The name of it is Sandy Bottom Bees, and then I just couldn't keep up with 2 channels. So what I'm thinking about doing, and I'm interested in your input, is I keep my same gardening schedule, which my videos are Saturdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then Wednesday I do a live. And I'm thinking about one of the days that I don't do a gardening video, if I have a bee video that I want to make, I could put it up in this channel. If you guys are interested in that, let me know, because your views are what's going to help all of that. Because if not, then YouTube will kind of hurt, and it sucks that it is that way. But I feel like they're like trying to censor you, and I don't really like that. Here's the wild garden. And I didn't marry a plan to do a pond, but you can see we started digging the pond already. My wife is a hell of a digger, and we dug this morning. I know you can barely see it because of the shadows. I'll try and brighten it up a little bit. But here's the roughed in structure for the waterfall. And then we needed to dig another shelf out, so it's going to be a little bit bigger. But here's the main function of this pond that we weren't sure we were going to build. If I ever disappear and you guys are like, where's Ben at? Question my wife, okay? Because she was digging this, and she made the comment that she could dig a grave in the matter of an hour. So just trust me. But she's really good with a shovel, and I said go for it, and she went out here. And so what we've got to do to get this project running is we've got to finish digging it out. Then we've got to put the liner in. I've got to build the waterfall in, and then I've got to run electricity to the waterfall. I was going to do a solar powered one, but I don't think it's going to be enough power. but I'm gonna run it from the house. I have to run power all the way out here, and I've got to figure out a way that I want to do that that's cost effective. So as of right now, this pond that we're digging has cost us $0 unless she pulls a muscle or I pull a muscle, which is highly possible. But then I think I did the math, and to get the pond minus the rocks for the pond is going to cost us like $200. It's not that bad. So, and it should add a lot to this area. So this is beginning a lot faster than I thought it would. So we'll see. But that's yeah, I wasn't ready to marry it on YouTube or even the Backyard Gardens podcast. I always kind of left it open, but I guess I didn't have that option. The wife spoke, and so I listened. And I'm happy to say that our chickens are now starting to lay eggs again. So as soon as the solstice hit, we were down to 1 egg a day. Now we're getting about 3. We should be up to 11 or 12 a day here in the next month or 2. So we're starting to get more eggs. And the way we look at it, it's real simple. We try to live like, if the chickens are laying eggs, we eat a lot of eggs. If they're not laying a lot of eggs, then we don't eat a lot of eggs. And we try to just kind of go with the flow and see how things change over time. You know, it's just like in the garden. We eat what's in season. We do seasonal eating, so we try to eat fruits and vegetables that are in season. When we get our peach trees produced, we gorge on peaches, and then we don't have a lot of peaches. We try, you know, if we go to buy apples or something, then we eat them in season. We don't buy apples in the middle of summer. So that's how we roll. So when the chickens stop laying like they have been, we eat a lot less eggs, but our lives change. We're not really doing as much surfing, so we don't have that nutritional demand that we need for, you know, as much protein. But then we also start hunting, and so we have that. So we kind of work our way all the way around and really try to round it out and eat with the weather and the seasons and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we operate. Just a little insight into that. Big items to do are empty the beds. We just fertilized, so we should be done fertilizing for the next 2 months at minimum. And then we need to get these beds filled up and leveled up. So what we'll do is we'll get them all leveled up. I'll get the wood, and I'm going to cut it probably this week, get them all in order, and then we're going to fill them, put the irrigation in. So I've got to run a line from where it was all the way over and then put the irrigation back in. And you can see the pieces and parts are laying out in the yard here. So we didn't want to do anything crazy. I don't want to do more than I have to as far as rebuilding. So we're going to reuse everything we can. And then everything that was over here, we're actually laying out here so we can take inventory and see where we want to add stuff and what we want to do to it. And then I got to take, once we get the pond dug out, I'm going to remove these silage tarps and then move them here so that we can get a solid month or 2 of weed suppression going on here. And then that should help with that. And we're also going to put it up here and get all this going. So we'll plant this out as much as we can, but we're going to wait until the optimum time. And you know, your boy's going to try and find stuff on sale too. So I've got a couple plants picked out, a couple seeds that I need to order and all that. And then we're going to get them going. So we'll get everything moving into the right direction. It's a slow process, but that's what this time of year is for. There's not a mad dash, right? So we've got plants growing. We're going to be starting seeds. Hopefully the next video will be about that. And we should be emptying out beds so we can plant if these aren't filled. And then when these are filled, we can plant these and all that stuff. So there's going to be plenty of room. There's a lot of stuff to do. We've got some juggling around to do, some reorganizing. So it's a really busy time, but I look at it this way. Go time for summer planting for me starts in April. So I have until April to get every single thing in this garden in tip-top shape. So everything needs to be put away, organized, and ready. And it gets kind of crazy this time of year because everything's getting pulled out and used. So everything needs to be in order, and then everything can be planted, and then we can kind of cruise through the season, hopefully in a more organized manner. But that's the way this time of year goes. This is construction time. So yeah, what are you doing in your guys' gardens? What is it that's going on in your gardens? How are you restructuring or rebuilding? What are you adding, taking away, whatever? Let us know in the comments below, because this is the perfect time of year to plan, restructure, regroup, and always seed start.
Goodbye.